Well, I think that's pretty obvious to everybody that revenues are coming down right now, particularly with the drop in state aids. And we don't know exactly, I think, what that number is going to be, but we have some idea about it. I think Raleigh's point about the median income here, $35,000 for a household versus $50,000 for a household, points up the major issue that I hear when I am talking to my neighbors, and that's good paying jobs. That's the #1 issue here in Ashland, is good paying jobs. And private enterprise is where we get good paying jobs. So thanks for the APA for putting together this forum, but we're really dependent on private business in this community to provide those good paying jobs. And so some of the other questions about, is Ashland business friendly, those are pretty important questions for the city of Ashland that we need to address. I'm not in favor of raising taxes at this time. That's not tenable right now. I heard over and over again from my neighbors that people are concerned about taxes. As I talked to my neighbors, that was just something that was very clear, and I heard over and over again. I do think that there are some fees that we could look at that mostly will impact tourists that might allow us to marginally increase some revenues. The marina, maybe the campsites. I think City Council has already looked at a couple of those, and I might be in favor of that. I think it needs to be on the table. It needs to be something that we think about. But the only other thing that we really have to look at is looking at some budget cuts. And there are a number of ways to accomplish budget cuts. To me, the key is to accomplish budget cuts while maintaining services. And I know that Mr. Benton, in a previous forum, has talked about across-the-board cuts, and I would just like to say I'm not in favor of across-the-board cuts. I'm in favor of making those difficult decisions and prioritizing. And so for me, it would be what would be the priorities that I would support would be police, fire, emergency services, the roads, and plowing. And that doesn't mean that the other things that people talk about, the library, there are all sorts of other Breading Center, there are other services that are provided, and those are important too. But we have to make some difficult decisions in this city, and those are the priorities that I would have.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Mike, you want me to read the question?
Yeah, please.
Current fiscal trends point to reductions in revenues this city depends on to fund its budget. In light of these reductions, do you support raising taxes and fees or looking at efficiencies or cuts?
Well, as my record has shown the last 2 years, I have totally voted against any tax increases, any shall I say, implemented fees and anything else that they want to keep adding on. What I've seen in the 2 years I've been in there and looking at these budgets, the city has $2 million worth of slush that they could flush down the toilet and not affect one bit of city services. This is how exploited out the city government has gotten to be. And easily $2 million. But yet they want to keep taxing and taxing and taxing and surcharges and everything else against the taxpayers, and that's not right. I'm sorry, but you have to learn to live within your means. We are top heavy at City Hall, and you know, I'm sorry, it may lead to some cuts, but they may be necessary to make the city fiscally responsible, which I would hope we are trying to move it in that direction now. And I'm not for nitpicking, as I said. It should be right across the board. What's good for the goose should be good for the gander. Everybody should have to indulge in the same amount of cuts as the next department. And you'll just have to find ways to cut. And believe me, what I look at in these budgets every month, there's so much waste in every department, they'd have no problem. Thank you.